You had
most days.
any coaches in your face telling you that you was unfair?
Um, biggest game I had this year was Crossroad and Monroe.
Okay.
You know, Crossroad's son, KP, just graduated and went to Alabama.
Okay.
And so that game was rough.
Was it?
Salters and KP are strong. I've had them twice, though, so it's always fun.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I could just imagine
Gave out some
that.
technicals, had some people running on the court.
Really?
So they gave us 3 deputy sheriffs. And I don't know if you've ever been to West Gaston Gym, but it's hot and packed. And if a fight breaks out in there, you hope and pray you get out.
Conversations with Nicole. Conversations with Nicole. Let's talk about it. Tell me all about it. I'm here. I wanna know what's on your mind. The world needs to hear from you, and I'm so glad to have a conversation to reach the nation. And it's all about you. We'll help each other to discover innovative ways to positively change the world. Let's talk about. Let's talk about. Yeah. Let's talk about conversations with Nicole.
Well, tell me about the Dream Defenders and how you got involved with them.
Yeah, so Dream Defenders, we started in 2012 after the tragic killing of Trayvon Martin, where students walked from Daytona Beach to Sanford to demand the arrest of George Zimmerman. And personally, at that time, I was in middle school in Edenville at the Life Academy in 6th grade. And Mom came and got me out of school one day and said, this young black boy just got killed in Sanford. I had a FAMU gray hoodie on, and we went out to the riverfront in Sanford. And that was the first time I ever knew about protesting or rallying. Met Attorney Crump, and Attorney Parks, Reverend Sharpton, Jesse Jackson. Everybody was there that you could think of. The one thing I remember from that, at that young age, somebody lost their baby on the stage, and Al Sharpton said, "Pookie, come get your baby." But Dream Defender since then has done many work, and so full circle moment for me to be able to lead the chapter here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I'm excited to have you, Mr. Malik Gary, here with me to just talk a little bit about you and some of your hopes and dreams and aspirations and the work that you do.
Yes, ma'am.
So, as Dream Defender leader, what's some of the challenges that you face?
Yeah, as being an organizer, it is. Tallahassee's like no other city through the state. Everything is politics, from refereeing to trying to get people to buy in the community. We face multiple challenges with different grassroots, I think, who do great work, but aren't necessarily black-led. And so when you have, folks that have been around for a minute, but don't necessarily like change, it's hard to implement some change or even to say that we deserve better. So sometimes older black folks, we get stuck in our ways and become comfortable. And I think that's what we're seeing right now with the supermajority. It's because when we had the chance, we didn't use that chance to make a difference.
Indeed, indeed. And what role does history play in the work that you do?
History's important. You got to know where you come from and not repeat the same cycle. I try to reinvent the wheel because sometimes we lack wisdom. And as a young 24-year-old, I'm trying to get all the wisdom I can. And I remember having a conversation with a SNCC elder, which is in the civil rights movement. I said, how do we bridge the gap? And he said, not necessarily bridge the gap, but take what you can and try to make a new gap. And that's hard sometimes because you want to know what history was there already. I mean, Tallahassee itself it's a very historical place, just around the Capitol. You have the lynching tree, you have the Union Bank, so many different things about history, right? That is important. It's important to the work. Want to understand why you have a police chief, all these different things, right? And so the history is you got to go back, but you don't get stuck in the history, because now the vision, you got to see clearly to make some changes.
Now, how have you used history in order to make change for the future?
Yeah, understanding where we come from as a people, just with this land, the indigenous land that was given to our folks, that has been taken away, and even, we can go back to the Stand Your Ground law, which is really why Dream Defender started, and pipeline to prisons. In the state of Florida, from Jeb Bush, which is one of the first Republican two-time elected Republicans, we have school choice, we have the STEM. So all those things are about history that you have to know and understand why the FCAT was created, and why at third grade is determined how many beds of prisons that we need. You need that history. That's important. A lot of times I was in school when these decisions was made, and I didn't really understand what they were. But now it's another full circle moment to understand why STEM is pushed so hard, or school choice. And now you have another governor doing the same. This has been a continued cycle, and so you got to know where it started in order to try to end it. But it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Indeed, indeed. Now, who are some of the leaders that you look to, or that are mentors, either directly or indirectly, to help you do the work that you do?
And so indirectly, John Lewis. I think what he did with SNCC is amazing. And Dream Defenders, we protest a lot, but I think what he taught me was protesting was good, but you also have to get in the side of politics, which is policy and legislation. And some of the things that he went through, being beaten in his head. I got hit by a truck in 2020 in the middle of a protest, which is one of my classmates, Alatoyan, was killed. Breonna Taylor. So all those things have continued to say, if John Lewis can go through that, I can go through this and continue the work. And Elijah Cummings is one of the greatest leaders, in my opinion. And Dr. King. Those are my indirect mentors. And directly, I'm a product of DYG, which is Ramon Alexander, former rep, and Alan Williams gave me the opportunity to be a page. And then Bishop Alvin Stewart at Alarm International. Those are my mentors. They hold me to the ground and able to see my success.
So you recently graduated from Tallahassee Community College. What are your future plans?
Future plan is this fall. I will be transferred to Florida A&M, continuing my study in political science with a minor. Originally is African American Studies. See how that plays out, because that's under the diversity and inclusion, and so we'll figure that out. But FAMU has been in my family lineage for a long time. My great-grandma worked there for 43 years.
Wow.
Was hired by Jay Gaither in athletics. My granddad played with Mickey Clayton and Clement Johnson.
Now, who was your granddad?
Norman Reddy.
Okay.
My godmom is Coach Veronica Wiggins.
Oh.
So I know FAMU a while, and
Okay.
so just finishing the line.
All right.
And so I'll be excited to be able to be on the highest and say that I graduated from there.
Indeed. Well, welcome to Caratla Nation.
Thank you.
Indeed, that's exciting. So what are your plans after graduation from FAMU?
After graduation, hopefully I'll still be organizing. 2026 may be a future campaign time for me. It's an opportunity that young folks, we need to step up and get some seats back. Small wins are always better than big wins sometimes. And so who knows, might be city, might be state, might be Congress. Trying to build other leaders as well during this time so that they can run with me.
Nice.
It's going to take a plethora of us.
And how do you build leaders?
Organizing, figuring out what folks' self-interest is. When I talk to students on FAMU, FSU, or TCC, I need to know why they came to school, what they plan to do with it, and how do they figure out to make an impact in the community. And so one young lady I took to DC, she's big on climate change. We don't have a lot of black people, black women, talking about climate change. That could be a running point right there, right? When I talk to leaders in the NAACP, why'd you join the NAACP? You know, I'm a proud member of Tallahassee branch, but it's different from a college branch than a community branch. And when I talk to folks that want to go to law school, well, why do you not want to go? I do, I'm just trying to figure it out. You can do it. We can do all things through Christ that strengthens us. And so that's how you build. You have to let people know that they can, and if they just put their mind to it, anything is possible.
Who are some of the black male leaders that you look up to?
In Tallahassee? Definitely Mataki Akbar and Dr. Akbar. I think the study that Dr. Akbar has done about post-traumatic slave disorder and some of the studies that he did while at FSU is tremendous. And sometimes we don't want to talk about those issues. But definitely his son being able to carry his legacy. And he's not too political, right? But he's an attorney that keeps fighting for black folks. And is in the heart of Frenchtown and is also the president of NAACP. I mean, he's relatable and tangible. I think we don't have that in some of our leaders right now. And a lot of people have titles, but forget why they have that title. And so that's why I named those two. It's cool to talk to some of our politicians, but I need you to know that sometimes you forgot and you've become out of sync with the people, especially the young people. And we're in a wave where young people are the next generation and the legacy. And if any more than anything, you ought to reach out to them more.
I've talked to a number of young people, and in talking with the young people, some of them seem very disengaged, not concerned about anything political, not candidates or issues. How do we get the young people engaged?
Well, I think it's not just when it's voting time, which is majority of the time when we go talk to young people. Young people need to be talked to 365, just like Black History is 365, right? And so there's a lot of issues that our students don't know about. Students don't know that when they come to school, they become part of the tax capital for Tallahassee. And they're in an area where they really don't leave their campuses. And so sometimes you got to go where the meat is on their campuses and get them into the system, because there's two systems. There's jail or the system of world. And world part is a part of politics. And you need economics, which economics is a part of politics, right? So they just don't know. A lot of them don't know the issues, don't know what's going on in their community, don't know who their politicians is until it's time to vote. And it's some old person, right? And so not to discriminate in age, but we have to do more. We have to do better, even with our voting process. We got to talk to people just not for the vote, but talk to people to make sure they can have groceries. Talk to people that are human and not look at some of our homeless people like they messed up. Even our felons, right? There's a system that we're playing, and sometimes we're playing a two-way street. People just need to know that they're loved and they're cared about before a vote comes.
Okay. So tell me about your thoughts on what some of the issues are for young people today.
I think mental health is a big thing. I don't think in Tallahassee, especially, we have enough mental health resources. I think I could say personally, going through COVID, I worked at Publix 7 days a week during COVID, and that was a toll. You know, a lot of people passed away during COVID, and then you still had students going through school. So I think people are still trying to find themselves, and how do you evolve in a society that was never created for you. I think we have college students have a high ratio of homelessness and dropout rates, because those two things go together. Do I take these student loans to survive, or do I take these student loans to get groceries, or do I take these student loans to pay my car note? Because there's no real way to sustain yourself. Gotcha. And so college students have a high rate of homelessness. And then food insecurities, especially on the South Side. Why do you have to go only to Piggly Wiggly on the South Side? instead of a Publix being on the south side, right? So when you only have things that don't make you healthy to eat necessarily right around the corner, most college students that are freshmen don't have cars, so the quickest accessible thing to them is a Piggly Wiggly, right? Not to knock Piggly Wiggly, but Piggly Wiggly's not the most healthy wise. And so that goes back to obesity. Those are different insecurities. There's a lot of things we could talk about, right?
Okay.
And so I think the three things for me is, though, mental health is a big part. You have a lot of students trying to finish in 4 years. I didn't finish in 4 years. It took me 4 years to get my associates, but I never gave up. And so it's that reassuring thing that no matter how many times you get knocked down, you have to get back up. And I think we don't talk about mental health enough. Two, I would say homelessness for college students is a big thing. Part of why I stopped in my college career, because I had to take the loans so I could have a house and pay my house for the next 6 months, and still go to work and come home. So when you have those things, that's hard to focus on school. And three, food insecurity is a big thing, which is, I'm actually proud of FAMU and FSU having food pantries on their campuses that are open, I believe, majority of the weeks. And so that's a good thing, because people are seeing that it's a problem and they're trying to put an answer to the problem.
Mm-hmm. In your opinion, what should Black folks be working on now?
Three things. Educating each other about what it means to be Black. Our Blackness is beautiful, and we let other folks in this world tell us that our Blackness isn't beautiful. Two, we have to seek wisdom from our elders. And I think a lot of times in the community, you don't even know your elders because you can't stay stable in one place long enough. And so when you're jumping to house to house to house, it's almost like you're in a cycle. But we need wisdom. And with wisdom, sometimes it becomes iffy because, you're trying to go get the wisdom, and then some folks say we're knuckleheads, but we want to know, how can we use the wisdom for us now? And so it's a two-way street. Both of us need wisdom. You need some young folks' wisdom, and young folks need old folks' wisdom, right? Three, I think we have to identify leaders that are able to take the torch and realize in our communities that sometimes we hold the torch too long. And so I think we can go back even to Dr. King's movement with the Poor People's Campaign. Who do we train next? Mm-hmm. When somebody dies off, and even in churches, you have some pastors that roll in on the pulpit that their time is gone, but they're holding on too long, and we have to build the next person so we don't have to reinvent the wheel. Indeed. But we can take the piece of the wheel and keep it rolling. Okay. Like a mouse. A mouse hops on the wheel, hops off the wheel, but they don't ever have to recreate a new wheel to run on.
All right, so succession planning.
Yeah.
Indeed.
So the government wants us to be reactionary, which is why he's throwing so much things at us at one time, because we can never get our feet wet.
What should young people be doing now?
Young people, get out to vote, but young people also don't just vote, but hold your politicians accountable. When I talk to a lot of young people, they don't even know the process of legislation itself or the process of really voting. And so we take it for granted. But I would encourage, if anybody needs to come talk to me about why voting is important and the effects of why we see it right now with a supermajority and with a governor getting ready to run, not only to say, I've done this in Florida, I can do this for the United States of America, where this place is supposed to be equal opportunity for all. But we know that it's never been equal opportunity for all, right? But I would encourage to go vote and do some teach-ins. Learn about Zura Hill Nursing. Learn about the 10-point program of the Black Panther Party. Do some books and breakfasts. Do some community service hours. Reach back to some of our high school students that won't get caught up in the system of incarceration. There's work for us to be done, and you don't need to be in a group to do the work. Mm-hmm. Take 2 of your friends and go clean up a block so you can beautify your campus or your community. there's enough for us to do. Nobody should be sitting on their behind. Let's all create good trouble together.
Nice. And if you knew now what you, if you knew now what you've known back then, what would you tell sixth grade Malik with the knowledge and the wisdom that you have now?
Sixth grade Malik would have probably hopped out of sports earlier, because I think that's a stigma that black man or black boys that are big like me have to play sports. To make it out, I would have re-put my sport energy into my education history, and even in history, and joining more things in my community. I don't think I started really joining things in the community until high school, and high school is too late. High school, you're trying to figure out what's next, like coming in freshman year, right? And so those are the things that I would have readjusted. I would have stayed with my music. I played tuba and sousaphone. But I always went back to sports because that was the motto. Black men play sports. Black men play sports so you can make it out. Or get a D1 scholarship or D2. So I would have focused more on my education. I would have not tried to fit into the culture of whiteness. I went to Lincoln, so we all wore those booty shorts as man. I would have loved my blackness a little bit more. And be unapologetically black. I would have started organizing 8th grade.
Okay, gotcha. And then my final question is, what is your greater work?
My greater work is to not see us continue to be enslaved 60 years from now. I like to steal this from one of my mentors, which is Marie Radigan. I'm paraphrasing, but she kind of says, I want to continue to work until I expire, because it takes all of us to do the work. And not everybody can do the work in the same veneer. We all are graced to do something differently, and so I want to be able to work in my grace. And if that is taking 5 people to the voting poll, or take 10 people to the voting poll, and then educating those 10 people about what their blackness means and how we can educate the next 10 people through them, then I've done something right. But I don't want us to keep fighting for the same equality 60 years later.
Right. I think Marie says she wants to inspire until she expires.
Yeah.
Yes, love it.
Yeah.
Well, I think you will do just that,
Yeah.
Malik. Thank you so much for spending some time with us today.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure.
It's been a pleasure.
All the best to you in all your future endeavors.
Thank you.
My pleasure. And thank you all for joining us on Conversations with Nicole, where we are connecting the community through conversations.